Hello again, computer graphics class. This is Professor Homa. I'm going to review Pathfinders very quickly. First of all, I'm going to bring out my Pathfinders palette from going to the Window menu, Pathfinder, and here's my palette. And I'm going to move this up here where I could see it as we do things. So I'm going to leave it here. I can put it on my dock and link it here. It's in the same palette as Transform, Align, and Pathfinder. Or I may just leave it down here too. So I'll move over there a little bit as we do some things. But the first thing I'm going to do that we start in class with Pathfinders is making a butterfly. Basic clip art little butterfly. And it's just by using the oval tool, drawing, and I'll make this kind of large to start. I'll make an oval. I'll rotate it by just using my selection tool and putting my mouse outside the corner of the transform box and just rotating up. I'm doing this manually. There's one oval. I'm going to hold down my Option key and do an Option drag. And there's my second oval. I'll rotate this one a little bit less. Move this oval in here so they kind of align along this point. And make this oval a little smaller. And then I'll make a third one. Copy. Option copy. Rotate. And make it smaller by dragging on the corner handle. Putting it in place so that all these, they're all kind of meeting right here. That's kind of my butterfly wing on the side. And to do the Pathfinder, what's actually going to happen is this is going to, from 3 paths, instead of grouping, it's going to become 1 path. You can see the overlapping paths right there. I'm going to go down to my Unite Pathfinder and click while all those 3 shapes are selected, and now they become 1 path. I'm going to move this over to the side, and I'm going to flip this around and make the other side of my butterfly. So I'll select this. I'll go over here to my, I have a rotate tool. If I hold down on that, I'll have a reflect tool. So I'm going to use the reflect tool, and I could just double click on it. I'll double click on the reflect tool, and it'll bring up this dialog box which says reflect, and it's talking about reflecting along the vertical axis. It's a little hard to understand. I wish it just said flip horizontal or something like that, but it's reflecting around a vertical axis. So think of, like, you know, a flag wrapping around a flagpole. That's what how it's going to reflect. So vertical axis 90 degrees, and instead of just hitting OK, I'm going to hit the copy button and it'll make a copy. And there's my second copy. I'll go back to my selection tool and just kind of move it into place and overlap it with the other shape. Highlight both of these shapes, align them up and down with my vertical aligned center so they're even, and then I'll unite those. So now I have basically 1 path. I started with 1 shape, made 3 shapes, so we could have a total of 6 shapes, but we united them and now we just have 1 shape, so a silhouette. So if I wanted to give this a color, I'm going to go and give it a radial gradient of black and white, except I'll change my black color in my gradient palette to an orange color. So there's my butterfly wings. Last thing I'm going to do on here is just, this will be a separate shape. It won't be part of the uniting. I'm just going to draw a little oval, fill it with black, and I'll move it in the center. And I can even align these on center. I'll use this to align them on center. And I'll zoom in here, and I'm going to make a little antennae, which I'll make out of a rectangle, a real tiny rectangle, and also out of an ellipse, or a little circle I'll put on here. Now this is not anatomically correct, but it's for a little cartoon antennae, that's okay. I'll align this so they're right on top of each other, and I'll even unite that. So I'll go down to my Pathfinder, click on Unite, and now this becomes 1 shape, 1 path, and I'll rotate it by going outside the transform handle, outside the corner handle, and just rotating. And I'll overlap it. And I can make a copy, or I can make a flip copy, or reflect copy by going to my reflect tool, double clicking, and rotating on its vertical axis and hitting copy. And before I try to go to move it, if you go to move it, you're going to start rotating it again. So make sure after you reflect it, you go back to your selection tool, then move it. And you could even align these things. I could align, well, I should align these things up and down. So I'll line them on center, and I'm just going to nudge them over right now. If I really wanted to line them all together, I'd have to group these two antennae. But I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to join them all together. So I don't want to join the wings with this part. I want this to be separate. So I'm going to join these three shapes together and join them, and now they become one path. And one last thing I'll do with these butterfly wings is click on the wings, and I'll go to the scale tool, which is underneath the reflect now. Or I'm sorry, I just went to the rotate. Here's the scale tool, the one on the right, and I'll double click on that, and I'm going to make a copy that's about 75% the size of the original, and I'm going to hit the copy button, and it'll put a direct copy right on top of it, and there it is. And if I want to scale it down or squish it so it's not near the edge, I'll do that. And then I could even give this, use my gradient, and give this another color. So maybe I'll give this more of a deeper color, and I'll take away the strokes on here. Give it a stroke of none. So there's my butterfly by just uniting separate paths, and then once I had this bigger path of the wings, I did a scale copy of that. These transform tools over here, you could double click on them and make copies as you transform. So you could do a reflect copy or a scale copy. So if I'll command minus to zoom out here, I can now highlight all of these shapes and group them, and that way if I wanted to make multiple copies of my butterfly, I can scale them. I can do drag copies. I could rotate them around and make a whole swarm of butterflies if I wanted to. But that's basically the little introduction that we do to Pathfinders, is just making little butterflies out of ovals. So we're going to start with very simple shapes and then eventually start to build up more complex shapes. But that's butterflies to start.